Hi there folks. In today's session we're going to look at parallel lines and the angles that are made when a straight line cuts across them. Now the immediate thing that I can tell I'm missing from my diagrams is that in order to indicate something's parallel we have these arrows on the line, and that's important because once we know it's parallel there's all sorts of rules come into play. Now if I was to take a protractor and start measuring these angles within here, I would have two basic sorts of angles. So I would have acute angles and obtuse angles. Now it actually turns out, if you did this and you measured them, that the acute angles are all the same as each other, and so are the obtuse angles. But there's some rules that we can use to help us work some of these out. So for example, if I was to draw a Z in here, I would be able to say that that acute angle is the same as that acute angle there. So these angles are the same. Now, often we might call them Z angles, but their proper name, because they're on alternate sides of this line that goes through the middle, is alternate angles. And the thing about alternate angles is they are the same. Now had I drawn it slightly differently, and I'd have looked at some parallel lines and then I'd have thought about, if I was drawing it here, then those angles are on alternate sides of the line, so they're the same as each other too. So it doesn't matter whether you're discussing the acute angles or the obtuse angles, as long as they're on either side of the line, they are alternate angles. So it doesn't really matter how it presents itself. I mean, you could have situations like that, but alternate sides of the lines are going to be the same. We could look like that. And so that one's on alternate side to that, which is on alternate side to that maybe. So maybe all of those could be the same. But we have to look at the situation that we're given. But the key thing is alternate sides of this line make the Z angle, and those angles are going to be the same. Now, if I think on a second one, and I was to draw this, and I was to look with this obtuse angle here, that's underneath the parallel line and touches the line that goes across. Now another place that corresponds to this, or is a very similar or a corresponding place, is there, because that's underneath the parallel line and touching the diagonal line, and these are called, they make the letter F, and they are in comparable positions of this position here corresponds to that position there. They have the same setup, so they're called corresponding angles. And again, they are the same. So if I'd have drawn my F shape in upside down, the ones that are in the same position, so in other words they touch the diagonal line and come on top of the parallel line here, they are also corresponding. I could have drawn it backwards. These ones would also be in the same position touching the diagonal line and the coming underneath the parallel line in the same place, in the same way. So all these things are called corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are all the same, and they are typically, you would see the F shape, whether it's forwards, backwards, upside down, whatever. You're typically looking for that F shape. Now, how does that relate to a question? So if I'm looking at this, I can immediately see that if I were to look at a Z here and here, I could draw, I could say that Y must be the same as, and in maths must be the same as, is an equal sign 70, and it's always good to put down what led you to that decision. So they are alternate. That was the word given to spotting that Z. Now, if I was to look at just here, only that bit, I can see I've got a straight line there. So if I look at that there, you should be able to tell me something about straight lines, and that is these angles add up to 180 degrees. So x plus 70 equals 180 degrees. You could put that they are a straight line, given the information that you know what you're doing. So that would tell me that x was 110 degrees. And in my final one, to find out Z, I might draw this shape here. And there you can see the F shape coming in. So Z, these angles are corresponding. So Z is the same as X, which is the same as 110 degrees. And given the reason for that, we'll say they are corresponding. So, to summarise, if you can spot a Z shape, those angles that are on alternate sides of the diagonal line are called alternate angles, and they are the same. If you can spot an F shape, the ones that are in corresponding positions, so they have the same sort of position as each other, so underneath the parallel line and touching the diagonal line, in both cases, underneath the parallel and touching. So this one above the parallel and touching, you get the idea. They have to be in the same position. Those ones are the same. And then when you come to looking at a problem, I actually felt it was quite a good idea for me to draw that quite big, because I could see then that once I'd drawn my Z shape on, my Y and Z were going to be the same. My Y and 70 were going to be the same, because they are alternate sides of that line. My X and 70 were on a straight line, so that makes X 110 degrees to make up the 180 degrees. And my X and my Z, once I'd found that X, I could see that F shape was there. And because that F shape was there, I could use the idea that they were corresponding to get my answer. I hope that makes sense.